Now, last but not least, I won't go in too much into the 5th class loadouts just yet. Let's talk about the Specialist to finish this up here for weapons, upgrades, and gear. So, with your Specialist, I think this might be the first person I've actually put the normal armor on. The normal armor is very useful if you want those 2 items on people. It's just that, really often, I just want that, I want that exosuit bonus, I want the heavy weapon, I want the spider suit. And the reason I said the exosuit technically only has 1 item slot is because the heavy weapon kind of counts as a second thing for me when you think about it. And I guess you could think the grapple's like an item with a spider suit. You know, it's all these bonuses that balance them out. But with the Specialist, you can go exosuit still. You can go, you know, maybe you advanced warfare centered salvo onto your Specialist. Go exosuit, make good use of that. But for this particular build, I think in general Predator Armor is the go-to, and that's because there's a lot of good items for a Specialist, compared to most classes having 1 really killer item for them. So in this case, with Sheriff Kilroy modeling the Specialist for us, let's say she's a combat hacker, to start off how we look at things here. Got our Gremlin Mark II for extra hack. We've also got the Skulljack. Now, I'm fairly certain that the Skulljack also gives you like a +20 to your hacking, so it's really a no-brainer for your primary hacker. Maybe you're running 2 Specialists, and only one of them is the guy you're stacking all the hacking bonuses you can find on from objectives. Sometimes you do objectives, you get a hacking bonus. You're going to want to stick the Skulljack on that person, push them as your primary hacker. Get that hack score as high as you can, and start getting 100% on objectives, 100% on the little towers where you can get the bonuses, 100% on Haywire Protocol and enemy robots. It's very powerful to stack that hack score very high. Once you're a great hacker, the world really is your oyster. It's true, kids. That dude in the black trench coat with the really greasy hair who smells a lot, he was right, you know. Learn the code. Install Gentoo. Start working on your hacking score right now. So the Skulljack's very helpful there, and the Skulljack depends on your hack score as well. So even if it doesn't or didn't give you the extra hacking score, it's still a good thing to put on your primary hacker with the highest hack score, because you want a high hack score for, well, Skulljacking the crap out of people. But moving on from hacking, later on, Specialists get a very pivotal perk, and I don't care whether you're a combat hacker or you're a medical hacker, it doesn't matter. It's a very good perk, very similar to Rapid Reaction in Enemy Unknown. It's a bit like a comparison, or like a combination of Rapid Reaction and Sentinel. And just like Rapid Reaction, it depends on your ability to chain those hits to keep the hits coming. In that sense, aim is really important. I mean, aim is already really important if you're depending on multiple overwatches to hit, because you want them to hit. But it's especially important because every shot you hit lets you potentially take some more. So in this case, we're stacking aim. We've got an aim PCS on Kilroy here. We have a tracer rounds as well. Now there's a reason for that. Tracer rounds might maybe be overkill, but in this sense, they're going to give us +10 aim. That's all they do. They don't do much else. They're basically, think of them like a scope. They're smart rounds that make your soldier more accurate. The reason we really want to stack those tracer rounds, and you don't have to do this, if you don't want to stack aim so hard, go ahead and put on an ammo type, a grenade, a mimic beacon, whatever the hell you want. Use an exosuit, use a spider suit, but I really want that because, let's go into the weapon upgrade, because I'm not going to be using a scope straight away on the rifle. As important as aim is, also the effects I want to happen when I hit the enemy are perhaps a little bit more important to me. If you get a 3rd slot for your Specialist's rifle, absolutely stick a scope on there as soon as you can. Maybe even a scope instead of the expanded magazine if you haven't got very good accuracy already on your troop. But if your accuracy is already pretty good, I value these 2 on a Specialist who's taking multiple overwatches in a turn, and here's why. So straight away, the repeater's already really good on a rifle class weapon in my opinion. The rifle does the least amount of damage compared to the shotgun and the sniper rifle and the cannon, so it makes the most sense to put the repeater on them. That 10% chance or 5% or 15 or whatever percent chance to instantly kill a target when you hit them regardless of their HP, obviously that's worth more the less damage the weapon normally does. If your weapon does a lot of damage and already kills a target when it hits them, what's the point of a repeater, right? But in the case of rifles, they're the best kind of class of weapon to use this upgrade, I think. And you can get some really nice kills on some very strong enemies. The other reason you use a repeater is because you want to be using a repeater on a class that can shoot multiple times in a turn, because that way, preferably on different kinds of targets, otherwise you're just going to kill the same target by hitting it 2 or 3 times and you don't need a repeater. But if you're shooting multiple different targets in a turn, like you do with multiple overwatches more often, there's more and more chance you're going to trigger that repeater chance. If you shoot 3 targets in a turn, then your 10% chance to instantly kill goes up to 30%. That's obviously much more powerful. That's going to happen much more often. Now, similarly, because we're shooting so many times in one turn, just like the sniper with Killzone, you're going to want an expanded magazine so that you can shoot potentially more times in a turn. You'd be surprised how many times you can shoot with a specialist on Overwatch, especially once you get that bonus that lets you crit with a specialist and has a +10 aim to their accuracy in Overwatch. So they really are Overwatch killing machines. Your expanded magazine is going to let you kill more people in your turn. Otherwise, I would recommend an autoloader if you're not interested in that. The autoloader is going to let you take free reloads. The specialist can already do 2 things in a turn. They can send their drone to do something and then they can shoot. So the autoloader is going to let you reload if you're out of ammo, still do something with your drone and still shoot or Overwatch. But that's my pick there. Definitely get a scope. A scope is obviously a big runner-up, and I would recommend it perhaps over one of these. If you're not interested in the repeater, go ahead and put a scope on instead. But just think that, you know, even though you can stack aim on Overwatch, that 10% extra chance to hit could have been a free kill. You never know. But if you're not having trouble with high damage, high health enemies, if you're not having trouble, you don't think the repeater is necessary, by all means, go ahead and stick a really good scope on here. Or maybe you think your accuracy is good enough, stick a laser sight on there, man. Eyes like EOTech's. Because you can crit in Overwatch with specialists once you get their captain perk from the Guerrilla Training School. That's an even better chance to crit on Overwatch. And you can see there's already a lot of different ways you can build your weapons and build your troops. Like, it's not just the troops that have really diverse ways to be built. Even your weapons. The different upgrades are useful in many different ways. The only thing you have to know is you can't combo both a laser sight and a scope, so don't even try. That's just silly. And if you were a medical hacker instead of a combat hacker, don't fret, just replace that skull hack with a medkit instead. Obviously, if you're a medical hacker, you're probably going to be bringing a medkit. I mean, you might have the perk that gives you the free drone medkit charge, and you're like, I don't need any more. Sure, that's fine. Live dangerously if you want to. But I find enemies do a lot more damage to you a lot easier in XCOM 2. I think having a medic ready is always pretty helpful for them. The tracer rounds, I feel like, are still very powerful for that high accuracy. But yeah, in that sense, you're going to want to take your medkit. Now, there are some other items that I have really enjoyed using throughout the preview that I would definitely recommend looking into, like the Mimic Beacon. Battle scanners are always useful, and just, you know, some good old-fashioned grenades. But in general, that covers most of the items that I feel really synergize super well with the classes. But of course, the fun thing about XCOM 2 is the Advanced Warfare Center is always chucking these perks from other classes at people randomly, and sometimes even perks that no class gets, just perks that exist only in the Advanced Warfare Center that you might randomly get. So, in those cases, it's... you know, you can build entirely differently depending on what perks you have. And that's what's really cool about XCOM 2 is there's just so many different ways to build. Before we get more into Jerry's final thought though, let's take a look at one upgrade that I didn't go into, and that is the stock. Now the stock, it's kind of like, it's very good. I mean, it's a very good upgrade. It just doesn't really fit once you are looking at your ideal builds, because it's more of a crutch. The stock is a crutch, it's kind of similar. It's more of a crutch for your lower aim soldiers. The stock, depending on its quality, allows your soldiers to deal a certain amount of damage on every shot, even if you miss. That's very, very helpful, particularly on rookies, if you're just not, you know, confident in your ability to hit. And even on the more experienced troops, if you're trying to hit through heavy cover, or you're missing your Overwatch shots, at least you're going to deal at least 1 or 2 or 3 damage on those shots. That's something you can take to the bank, you can bet around, you can grow a family around. You know, you can have a guy who's trapped in heavy cover, and it's a captain, and he's got really good abilities, let's say, and he's only got 3 health left, but no one can get him. Well, if you've got a superior stock on your weapon, you sure can. So the stock is very good for that, but the higher your accuracy, the less you need a stock, and the more it becomes, quite frankly, a wasted upgrade. If you're hitting all the time, or if your entire strategy is to hit, like with a specialist, with their Overwatchers, or with sharpshooters, then a stock really isn't going to do much for you, because if you're hitting, the stock is wasted. The stock is only useful when you miss. In that sense, I find it's better on your lower kind of accuracy guys, like demolition blast padding grenadiers. Maybe you stick it on your Blade Ranger instead of the hair trigger, so that if he can't get close enough to sword, at least he can help by guaranteeing do 2 damage, you know. The stock is very useful for stuff like that, generally for hitting enemies through heavy cover or hitting enemies who are otherwise really tough to hit. And you know, now that Overwatch is removed by damage, the stock is very useful for guaranteeing you can remove an Overwatch without needing to spend like a suppression or something on it, you know. But in general, I think the better your troops get, the less they need the stock, and the more you're going to upgrade into something else that's going to give you a much bigger boost. And a lot of the upgrades are a lot better with better troops, like scopes, crit laser sights, etc. So that's really the long and the short of it, I think, of everything I should waffle about right now about equipment and gear. Hope I didn't take too long. I wanted to cover not everything exhaustively, where's the fun in that, but I wanted to cover what I feel like are the most synergistic and important parts of some key loadouts that I've used or I've gravitated towards or started to use during my time of the preview of XCOM 2. By all means, don't consider me the definitive source, don't consider me like an infallible expert. Use your brain, especially once you get your hands on the game on XCOM 2 when it comes out. There are just so many choices, so many different options. Dive in. I know it sometimes sounds like I'm advertising this game, but I don't know, it's hard to say something like, man, there's so many choices in XCOM 2 without sounding like you're in an infomercial. Like, trust me, there actually are a lot of choices. I'm not just saying that. Like, when you get the game, be sure to put your thinking cap on, turn your brain on, have a look at all the different options. There are so many different ways to mix and match all these pieces of gear, weapon upgrades, class perks, special random advanced warfare perks, overall squad builds, different builds for different mission types, different items, you know, you goddamn name it. There's going to be something. People are going to come up with some crazy stuff that they're going to make uniquely their own. Different PCSs, everything, you know, different PCS bonuses, you know, everything. Everything's crazy, so everything's going to be crazy good. So be sure to put your thinking cap on. Don't just follow the crowd. Think about your builds in XCOM 2 once you get your hands on the game. And if you're the kind of person who likes thinking the best way to use this item or this gear or making up strategy and tactics, I think you're really going to enjoy the equipment and gear of XCOM 2 when the game hits. Until then, hope you had a good one. If you've got any questions on things I didn't cover, leave it in a comment, and if I see it, I'll reply to it, let you know if I know the answer. If you've got any interesting thoughts or discussion on the gear, like I said, I'm not the expert here. I just am the guy who happened to get his hands on it. So be sure to comment if you think, hey, maybe a stock would be really good for this strat, or a hair trigger would actually be really good on this person, etc, 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 etc. Blah, 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 blah. I'll stop the waffling for now because I'm sure this video has gone for more than long enough. Until next time, hope you enjoyed this look at some of XCOM 2's equipment, gear, upgrades, PCSs, weapons, and, well, everything but the kitchen sink. And until next time, check out some of my other videos on XCOM 2 if you're interested in the game. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.